Today we're going to be looking at this thing. It is the new Porsche Taycan Cross Turismo, and it's not just an estate version of Porsche's electric sports car. It's actually, as you can see by these bits of plastic on the side, designed to go off-road. Now that's a bold claim for what is one of the fastest EVs on the planet. So what I want to find out today is it really a go off-road, do anything crossover, or is it just a Taycan with a bigger boot, a bit taller, and bits of plastic on the side? We're about to find out, but before I get into the review, remember to hit the like button and subscribe for more awesome reviews just like this one. Some of the design changes because there are many to go through, and it all starts off at the front. Now this looks pretty normal Taycan, but of course we've got this new metal guard at the bottom of the car, and that's designed so that if you're going over, let's say, rocky road or boulders, then you're not going to rip the front end off. It's just going to give you a bit more protection, as does this new plastic cladding on the side of the car. Now, I've seen on some press cars that this has actually come in gloss black, but our one here is good old-fashioned plastic. And we've also got the optional off-road design package, which comes in at just over £1,000, and it adds these little fins down the side of the car. Now, they're designed to give not only the car a bit more of a sporty look, but they do add a bit more protection. Although I think you'd have to be going really fast for it to kind of offer any kind of aerodynamic benefit. At the side here, we have these new wheels, 21 inches, and they are exclusive to the Cross Turismo. And I think they look absolutely stunning, really sharp, a mixture of premium and luxury, which is hilarious because they sit below plastic bumpers. Now, moving further down the side of the car, we obviously get to the big change, and it is, of course, the roof line. Now, it's not an estate, it is a Cross Turismo, but it's an estate car essentially. You have more room in the back, which is going to be really important because things were a little bit tight in the regular Taycan. In fact, you can watch my review of that clicking the link in the top right-hand corner. So hopefully we've got a little bit more headroom in the back here, and of course a bigger boot that comes with it. Now, one thing that our car doesn't come with is roof rails, but you can spec them on the Cross Turismo, something you can't do on the Taycan Saloon. Back of the car is a little bit different to the regular Taycan. Of course, we've got this taller boot line, although it is really sleek. I do love the look of that. And we've got this nice big wing here as well. But we've also got some metal protective guard down here at the bottom of the diffuser, and also this is plastic too, just so that your car can go off-road without tearing bits of the car off or ruining the bodywork. Now, you can actually option in a bike rack at the back here. So if you wanted to take some bikes, they can just slot it on at the back, and you can even spec a couple of electric bicycles. So if you really want to go all in on your eco-friendly adventuring, go buy a couple of Porsche EV bikes. Of course, getting a Cross Turismo means that we've got a bigger boot compared to a regular Taycan. And for the specifics, it's 446 litres. Now, on the standard Taycan, you only get 366. Now, it's not the biggest boot in the planet, and there is a little bit of a load lip. It's also because we've got quite a lot of electronic and mechanical stuff going on back here. Not only do we have a big motor, but we've also got a differential as well. But still, you'll be able to get quite a lot of suitcases and kayak stuff in the back for when you go on your many environmentally friendly adventures in your Cross Turismo. Now, we've actually got a couple of pockets either side of the boot to store even more stuff away. Bit of a net at the side here, and we've also got some straps on the left and higher up on the right to keep things in place when you're hurling it around a mountain pass. Last few things, 12-volt charger on the right-hand side, and we've also got a couple of hooks either side to hang up, I don't know, wetsuits. I'm not very adventurous. And if you want to open up even more space, of course, you can lower the rear seats and you'll open up around 1,200 litres of luggage capacity. Of course, just like the regular Taycan, we have a front boot as well, which offers just over 80 litres more storage space. So not only do we have more boot space, but the Cross Turismo solves one of the Taycan's biggest problems, and that is headroom. It's really tight in the back of the saloon, and if you're over 6 foot, you would struggle to fit in. But with me being just under 6 foot, and in the new Cross Turismo, I've got so much space. In fact, you've got 47 millimeters more headroom in the back of the Cross Turismo than you do in the base car, and it really shows. And I also think that it kind of turns the car into a bit of a Panamera rival, whereas before they didn't really share the same space at all. Anyway, legroom is absolutely fantastic. Got the driver's seat in my position and I've got loads to play with. That was the same in the base car as well. These seats are really lovely, nice and sporty. They kind of really hug you and they feel a bit like, almost like bucket seats, but for the back of the car. Middle seat, I think, is a little bit useless because you've got the buckle right in the center, so it'd be really uncomfortable if you had to sit there, but it's there if you need to use it in an emergency. We've got a couple of USB-C chargers in front of the middle seat as well. A small little tray for whatever you want to put down there. And I really love this. Now this is optional, but having this screen at the back to control the climate settings is so cool and properly futuristic. Up front in the Cross Turismo, and admittedly it's pretty much exactly the same as a normal Taycan. There are some small differences though between what we had in the regular Taycan versus our Cross Turismo, including the optional embossed Porsche badges on the armrest and headrests. We also have the also optional passenger display, which you can get in the regular Taycan as well. I think it's dead cool because it means that you've got 4 displays in the front of the car, one for the cockpit, the infotainment screen, one for the climate settings, and also for the passenger. Now the passenger display is essentially a duplicate of the central infotainment screen, although there are some subtle differences. So I can control some media on the passenger display, like the radio and also any media that we've got on board the car, but you can't control Apple CarPlay. That's only done with the center screen. So if I wanted to check out my music on the center here, I could also get the map up on the passenger display so I can see how far along we are with our journey. But you can also get a readout of the cockpit, so you can have a go at whoever's driving if they're driving too quickly or too slowly, and the car's just switched itself off. Oh well. Now what you get in the Cross Turismo that you don't get in the Taycan is gravel mode. Now what that does is if you go for a Cross Turismo with no optional extras, it adds an extra 10 millimeters of ride height to the car. Now the Cross Turismo already sits 20 millimeters higher than a regular Taycan, so that brings it all up to 30 millimeters when you've got that engaged. But our car has the off-road design package, which is optional on all cars, and that adds 10 millimeters as standard. So if you hit the gravel mode, it doesn't actually change the ride height of the car. The maximum you can go is 30 millimeters, which is about that much. But what it does also do is it changes the suspension setup, the torque vectoring and the steering to give you maximum grip on loose surfaces. And unfortunately, I don't have a rally stage to try this on today, but I have seen some people flinging them about on rally stages and it looks completely at home, and I'm very jealous of them. So the Cross Turismo must carry a pretty big premium then if you've got more headroom and a bigger boot and it can actually work off-road. Well, it doesn't actually cost that much more than a standard Taycan, so it's difficult to compare the 4 because there isn't a regular Taycan 4, but the entry-level 4 starts at just over £79,000, which is not bad at all, and it goes all the way up to close to £140,000 for the Turbo S. Now this regular turbo comes in at £117,000, which is only about £1.5 more than the base turbo, which is amazing. You get all this practicality for just an extra £1.5 grand. Porsche has supplied us with this really cool AR app so we can see the powertrain and batteries. Now it's not actually built for the Cross Turismo, but I've managed to just about lay it over the top. It might glitch out here and there, but hopefully it'll be all right. Anyway, there are some subtle differences between the Taycan Cross Turismo and the regular version. So this is the turbo, but it actually applies to the entry-level 4 as well. All cars are all-wheel drive. So you can see at the front there, highlighted in red, that is the front motor, and then if I go to the back, we have the rear motor. So as standard, they all come with all-wheel drive. So it starts off with the 4, then you've got the 4S, the Turbo, which is this one here, and the Turbo S. All 4-wheel drive, all come with 2-speed gearboxes. The first gear is only really used for launching away in Sport and Sport Plus. Most of the time you'll be in second gear. And that gearbox is located towards the back of the car. So let's talk power then. So the entry-level 4 has 375 brake horsepower or 480 with overboost. Now, overboost is something that kind of kicks in when you're in launch control. It gives you a bit more power for a short space of time. So if you're wanting to get away from a set of traffic lights or drag someone, then you have that. So 375 all the way up to 480 with overboost. The 4S, 483 brake horsepower or 563 with overboost. Then the Turbo and Turbo S both have a base output of 616 brake horsepower. But in overboost, the Turbo goes up to 671 bhp and the Turbo S 751 brake horsepower. And that one is the fastest to 60, taking 2.9 seconds, which is a little bit slower than the base car, but not much. And then the 4 is the slowest at 5.1. Now let's move on to the battery, and I'm starting to see the app is getting a little bit unhappy now. But, the app failed spectacularly when I started talking about the battery, so I'm going to have to do this the old-fashioned way. And that means I can actually talk about the really cool charging port that you get on the normal Taycan as well. So instead of having to press it to open it, all you do is swipe your finger under here and it automatically does it for you, which is so cool. Now, on this car, this is a German car, so it's left-hand drive. We have the fast charger on the right-hand side, whereas on UK cars, this is usually the home charger, and on the left-hand side is usually the fast charger instead. So what are you charging up? Well, on the standard Taycan, you actually had 2 different batteries to choose from, a smaller and a larger performance battery. But this one only comes with the bigger performance battery across the entire range. It's got a usable capacity of 84 kilowatt hours, physical is around 93 kilowatt hours, and it's actually the entry-level 4 that's got the biggest range at 283 miles, according to WLTP. Then if you go for the 4S and this car, the Turbo, you're looking at just a bit lower at 281. And then there's the Turbo S, which comes in at 260 odd miles. But really, when you actually go and use this car, when we got it in this morning, it was reading just over 200 miles in normal mode. So if you're having things like heated seats and the air conditioning on, it is going to use up quite a lot more battery. And in terms of charging, the Cross Turismo is actually a little bit better than the base Taycan because it supports 290 kilowatt charging as opposed to the base car, which does 270. So if you find a supported charger, which is going to be very hard, but they are out there, you can get 62 miles of range in just 5 minutes. So it looks different to a Taycan and it's got a much bigger boot, but does it feel any different to a Taycan? So I'm going to whack this Cross Turismo into normal mode to see if it's any different to the saloon. The short answer is yes, it does feel different. Even at low speed, this feels like a different car, if subtly different. Now, I would say the thing I'm noticing the most is that it just feels a little bit more comfortable compared to the regular Taycan. And I'm going over some pretty vicious speed bumps at the moment, which I'm not really having to worry about. And that's partly because it's not sending a massive jolt through my spine every time I'm going over it, although the base Taycan is still relatively comfortable for a sports EV. But, that's fast. But it also just feels a little bit softer, as though it just absorbs bumps a little bit better. And that's just in normal mode. So I'm going to whack it in gravel now, which is going to put us in our most off-road friendly mode. And I'm not on a rally stage or anything like that at the moment, but I'm on a very tight and twisty piece of tarmac. And I want to see if it's got any noticeable body lean. I would say there's a little bit more lean compared to what you get on a Taycan, but I wouldn't say that's by any means a bad thing. And again, I've got it in probably its softest setting possible in gravel mode. It might be the one I actually prefer driving the most in on the road. It's so comfortable. It has a level of comfort that the regular Taycan doesn't have, and just takes off that sporty edge, which a lot of people like from a Taycan, but when you're driving it every day, I think I would prefer this, in all fairness. Not that this is short on performance, this is a stupidly fast car, particularly in turbo form. I feel like I'm noticing it more than I did in the standard Taycan, probably because it's a less performance-focused car. It's got plastic bits on it and its ride height is taller, and therefore there's just a little bit more body pitch when you're flat out. You do feel like you're on top of it all of the time. This is just such a wonderful car to drive. Lovely steering, really nice controls as well. It feels like a proper sports car as well. It might be an electric car, but it feels like you're having a proper performance car experience. And that's especially the case if you put it into Sport Plus, which is giving us that slightly more burbly sound in the background that is completely fake because the electric motors don't make any noise, but I quite like it. In Sport Plus, the throttle response is just so brutal. It is just such an insanely fast car. I'll be honest, I think if this was going to be an everyday car, I don't think you would need the turbo. I think you would just need to go for something like the 4S, because I think that would give you all the power that you would really need. I mean, 616 brake horsepower, 680 when you're using launch control is just nuts. And you also get the adaptive air suspension as well included. So now we're in Sport Plus, it is very firm and very bouncy, but that's kind of what you would expect in the sportiest mode. I can, however, change it to, is I going to put it into normal? I think we're in normal now. And that's when things become a lot more relaxed. And that's really where the Taycan Cross Turismo shines, is it's just so adaptable. It can be anything that you want it to be, aside from a manual sports car. But we've got the blistering performance of a regular Taycan, but there's a level of comfort that the regular Taycan doesn't have that I really like in the Cross Turismo. Does this feel distinctly different to a regular Taycan? Yes, but you'd have to drive a regular Taycan to really notice it. It is quite subtle, but there are differences there. Does it feel just as fun as a Taycan? Absolutely, if not more fun, because when you have the suspension in its softest setting, it does wallow around a little bit. And should you go for one over a regular Taycan, it doesn't actually cost that much more over the saloon. And in my book, it's better in pretty much every single way, other than if you're going to be really using it as a performance car. But as an everyday car, the Cross Turismo absolutely has it covered. But I also think it's one of the most versatile and well-rounded electric cars ever made. It's very, very, very good.